Vaishnavis? Jantiyata ramateva sadavo Yatastamaya guna vipramodaya Bhavatpanua smaratate satam Nimitamajan bhagavana vidmahe Bhajanti, they worship. Ata, therefore. Tvam, you. Ata eva, therefore. Sadavaha, all saintly persons. Vyudasta, who dispel. Maya guna, the modes of material nature. Vibrama, misconceptions. Udayam, produced. Bhavat, your. Pada, lotus feet. Anusmaranat, constantly remembering. Rite, except. Satam, of great saintly persons. Nimitam, reason. Anyat, other. Bhagavan, O Supreme Personality of Godhead. Na, not. Vidmahe, I can understand. So, translation. Nice. Great saintly persons who are always liberated, take to your devotional service, because only by devotional service can one be relieved from the illusions of material existence. O my Lord, there is no reason for the liberated souls to take shelter at your lotus feet, except that such souls are constantly thinking of you. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The karmis are generally engaged in fruitive activities for material bodily comforts. The jnanis, however, are disgusted with searching after material comforts. They understand that they have nothing to do with this material world, being spirit souls. After self-realization, the jnanis who are actually mature in their knowledge must surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Bahunam janmanam ante. Self-realization is not complete unless one comes to the devotional platform. That's one of maybe, for me, one of the most important sentences here in this purport. Self-realization is not complete unless one comes to the devotional platform. Therefore, it is stated in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam that those who are atmaram, self-satisfied, are freed from all contaminations of the material modes of nature. As long as one is affected by the modes of material nature, especially by rajas and tamas, he will be very greedy and lusty, and will therefore engage in hard tasks, laboring all day and night. Such false egoism carries one from one species of life into another perpetually, and there is no rest in any species of life. The jnani understands this fact and therefore ceases to work and takes to karma sannyas. Yet this is not actually the platform of satisfaction. After self-realization, the material wisdom of the jnani leads him to the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Then he is satisfied only in contemplating the lotus feet of the Lord constantly. Prithu Maharaj therefore concluded that liberated persons taking to the devotional path have acquired the ultimate goal of life. If liberation were the end in itself, there would be no question of a liberated person taking to devotional service. In other words, the transcendental bliss derived from self-realization, known as Atmananda, is very insignificant in the presence of the bliss derived from devotional service to the lotus feet of the Lord. Prithu Maharaj therefore concluded that he would simply hear of the glories of the Lord constantly, and thus engage his mind upon the lotus feet of the Lord. That is the highest perfection of life. The translation once again. Great saintly persons who are always liberated, take to your devotional service, because only by devotional service can one be relieved from the illusions of material existence. O my Lord, there is no reason for the liberated souls to take shelter at your lotus feet, except that such souls are constantly thinking of your feet. Oh, nice. Om Gyantimarandhyascha Chudanasalakaya Chakshukdimyana Tasme Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dati Sapadandikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shivaswati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So thank you very much again for coming to class today. Please give me some blessings that I can say something that will help you today, especially on the second day of Padayatra. We need some inspiration. I woke up this morning feeling tired, especially the legs, but also very, peaceful on the inside. Oh, you also, Harivenu nods at me. There's something very beautiful about the process. Sometimes in the temple, we can be a little bit overwhelmed with our own to-do list, and we are sometimes in our isolated capsule, carrying that out. But yesterday on the Padayatra, it was very nice to see brahmacharis and grahastas and children and those from individual ashrams come together just to sing in the forest of Valkation and Yandelsbrunn, to all of the animals in particular and the people passing by, until we finally arrived in Valkation. And I thought this is a very simple example of a perfect day in Krishna consciousness. The whole day, one is somehow engaged. Before there's preparation, we were there, it was more like around 4 hours walking on the Padayatra and singing Harinam the whole time. Then we come to Valkation and the people are looking as we hear. In the age of Kali Yuga, they're looking like, what do you want here, or what are you doing, or pretending not even to look at us, but somehow sit somewhere near us to somehow hear, and then some soften up. At the end, there were quite a few who came to take prasadam, or a few books maybe even. But it was like this hardening part that we read in the beginning. They are looking for material bodily comforts, not for the holy name. They're looking how can they make their life easier or more content. They are happy in their one stream. I think right where we were was the Metzgerei, this butcher. I think it's just near where the stage was as well. They're looking for, okay, I have my piece of my bread and meat for the day. What more do you want? What is it that you are doing here? In London, they somehow, at least my experience, they've caught with the program and they'll just join in, more or less easy, or there's free food or something. But these people are really looking like, what's going on here? And some are half smiling, some who recognize people, like I saw a few recognize Narahari Mataji. So they sort of came, one even with a cigarette in his hand, paid pranams. It was like, wow, he has a cigarette and he plays pranam to Narahari Mataji. So some benefit is still there, right? In these worlds as they cross over. And it's easy sometimes living in a temple. I like to say we live a little bit in a bubble world. Like, meaning a very spiritual, environment where one practices. And it's easy in this environment to stay connected to Krishna because we have him directly here on the altar and all of our activities are connected to him. And then suddenly we're confronted with the outside world. I suppose it's the hardest for maybe Sankirtan devotees too, because you have like this holic world where we have our devotional side and then the skeptical people. One can say maybe materialistic. We don't know what's in the heart, so maybe very spiritual. I think, you were saying that there was it Govinda, there was a group of elderly Mataji sitting who didn't want any prasadam or any books or anything, but they sat by the stage for a long time, by stage on the sides for a long time, but even they would have got benefit from hearing. So one doesn't know, maybe they have very strong Christian beliefs and they feel we're going against their viewpoint, but somehow there is some attraction that makes them stay somewhere near and hear. And most of us come from this material world, like most of us there are. So meaning that we also were used to, what can I do to survive, right? What can I get? A nice home maybe, a car or this, or just to be okay. Maybe I'll go traveling, but everything to be in this world of surviving. And then it says the jnanis are disgusted with this search, so then they maybe give up all of it. They look for knowledge, for something more. And then after this, at this stage, it says the self-realization is not complete unless you come to the devotional platform. Or it also speaks about what's the word here that they use? The jnanis, those who are liberated, those seeking liberation. Often they're described as the impersonalist, or those, say for example, they find a deep level of some sort of realization by focusing on practices like from Buddhism, like this. But still they're stuck. And then you get to the stage where we're sort of on, right? We're on this path of devotional service. We're on this, yes, we are on this path. So we are sort of indicating, having gone through different aspects of the yoga ladder, that we are on, on a good step up, where we are just at the point that if we achieve bhakti yoga, we will step over into the spiritual world. Like this. So that's our aspiration. It says that taking to the devotional path, those who have taken to the devotional path have acquired the ultimate goal of life. One of Srila Prabhupada's small books is called something like In Search of the Ultimate Goal of Life. I always like this search, I like this title. We're in searching for the ultimate goal of life. What is that goal? Sometimes is it that we who are practicing, especially those who are practicing for some years, maybe it goes off focus. We're thinking mostly, okay, when am I going to get my rounds done? Prasadam, next steps. Or are we having that question in our minds? What is the ultimate goal of my life? And in this is important because it does come up a few times in the books that we have this, or that we are in the search of the ultimate goal of life. We can say, yes, we know Krishna is the ultimate goal of life. But actually having to realize something as opposed to factually knowing something is very different, right? That's why a lot of us live in the temple, because we are wanting to truly understand what does it mean to get this ultimate goal of life. Thank you for giving me a reassuring note. Yes, is it just us? We're a little fanatic here, maybe. We go, yes, we're not, what's the word? pessimistic or negative, and or maybe in some lives we go back to Godhead. We're aiming for this life, huh? We're like it's like this. I asked senior devotees, Nandimukhi, like, so do you really believe that we could go back home to Godhead? She's like, Srila Prabhupada said, stick to the 4 rules, chant every day 16 rounds, you will go back. Yes. You know, simple, very simple. And I was like, God, I'm so complicated. You know, but what about this? What happens? A devotional service can be in so many different moods. What if it, like it says here, as long as one is affected by the modes of the material nature, especially by rajas and tamas, he will maybe labor all day and night. And it can feel like that sometimes, that we are laboring all day and night. So what's the difference then? When we are running in passion, rajas, running, got service to do. Some of you will go in, 20 minutes to, prepare prasadam. You have to go prepare, we have to run. What's the difference then between us and the karmis? What's the difference? Rakesh, what's the difference? You're there in Berlin. You see a lot. Oh, Stas has an... We make it for Krishna. We try to make it for Krishna. But what if you're running so much the whole day, or say you're in Tamagun, and, Subal made you go on the street, made you, huh? You're Tamagun, huh? Yeah, you see her. What then? Is it still for Krishna? Or are you thinking, wow, why Brahmachari tell me I have to do this? I'm not feeling it. I distributed a poster, a flyer today. Huh? What is it? Is it devotional service? What do you think? I'm getting a yes. Here I'm getting a, it still is. Why is it still devotional service? Oh, Subal.
I don't do that, by the way.
I cannot imagine you doing that. That's why I use you as an example. Sorry, Subal. Just so you know that I cannot imagine, yes, but just so you know.
I would say maybe for the devotee doing it, the consciousness is not so high or focused on Krishna, so it's not devotional service in those highest guna. But for Krishna, it may be very pleasing because he sees, wow, the devotee really struggles for me, he really pushes, even though he doesn't really like to do the service.
Yeah. Oh yes, Stas gets your microphone. It's true. It's like things seem to work on a different level of understanding when it's devotional service. Because it could be that we are little in Raja and Tamagun, yeah. But somehow, because we are trying to please Krishna, because we try to endeavor, and especially on this last point, we are endeavoring when our mind is sort of saying no. It feels that Krishna sometimes gives us more of a humbling sweetness inside, huh? That we've gone through it anyhow. Yesterday when Govinda Dev Prabhu said, we are 15% of the journey, and we'd been walking, it felt, for ages, so 15%. And I was like, he said 50%, oh, 50% we're through. I was like, no. But I was like, okay, like, still have 85% left of the, because my head works in numbers too. 85% of the journey left. I thought, okay, I can't think about this. Let's just go. Let's just chant Hare Krishna and keep going. And it's at this point, sometimes one thinks, oh goodness, like it's transcendental, but some matters come into play. When I see Akila Prabhu, we think of the former times when devotees were on the go the whole time, right? Literally, they woke up, Mangalati chanted the rounds. Narahari Mataji said there were 16 people, Matajis in a room, where now maybe Shri Shri Prahlad Lakshmana Shingadev Bhagwan Ki Jai. There were maybe 16 Matajis staying in a room that maybe now 2 or 3 max would stay. And she said, but mostly they were not in the rooms. They would get ready and they would be off on Sankirtan or selling candles or selling paintings or like this to get through. And that was every day. Narahari would cook not 1 offering, but maybe 3 offerings in the day for the Lordship, because there was more. And I asked her, but we're not on that level anymore. We're not on that level. Back then they didn't have a day off either, right? So 7 days a week, every day, they were continuing. And I remember for a few, she's like, no, before there was more, they were able, we just went out, we just focused and we did it. And I was like, okay. I said, but we're not on that level, Narahari, because I was looking over the ladies and then speaking to the temple commander at that time, we can't do it. We just feel burnt out. Or this is a common phrase, so that we know, burnt out somehow. And so we introduced this only around 10 years ago. We introduced a day off in the week. 13 years ago, we still had 7 days, basically service. So we introduced this one day off in the week. And we also noticed that if you reduce the level or the amount of service hours, we generally seem to get devotees also who were more maybe also introspective or thought more about, it wasn't just go, 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 go. It was also other things. Many also started to study online. Bhakti Shastri, one also took a bit more care of one's needs. So quite some Prabhupada disciples have come forward and said it's very good to have prasadam, but sometimes it was so excessive in terms of sweets and, fatty food that the health was suffered. So then a diet had to be introduced, as we see by many older devotees. So then these different things came up. I remember at one moment there was a whole discussion on our diet in the temple. And there was one side that said it's been working for so long, leave it. And the other side that said yes, but for us to be able to be fit for devotional service, we need to have a more balanced approach. Then we have Mahatma Prabhu giving, for example, workshops on self-care. His is a very special element of a self-care workshop because he puts in a lot of examples of where Srila Prabhupada took care of the disciples to ensure that they were in the ultimate health to be able to care. Not I take care of me and mine and my body, but more a case of I take care of my body, which is a vehicle for me to serve Krishna. It's a subtle difference, but a very important difference, because today outside there is a lot of talk of self-care, but this without that aspect of Krishna firmly in the center is sort of missing the point, right? So it's like this balance up between what is needed. So back there on devotional service, so one side could say, okay, we just do devotional service. It's not really important so much to sleep or eat or any of this. Let's just go forward. But most of us had this example that we crash and burn at this time. I think I did try to question Narahari, like, what did you do? What did, we just continued, I remember her saying. Some years after we had this discussion, she did say she also noticed it's a different time now, and we come more into this element of looking over the care of people. I heard in one lecture that around 95% of the devotees live outside of the temple too. So it's a whole different generation. Back then it was mostly people living in the temple. So it's about taking that balance up of what they are going. Also with that, sometimes it's easy for there to be divisions amongst the parties. Sometimes the grahastas say that, okay, but we have to stay and be here and do all of the, not quite mundane, but the sort of boring, what can feel like not as interesting service. The brahmacharis have sometimes said, why don't the grahastas maybe come out more on the streets and distribute books, right? The ashrams can say one side they are doing less, or the other side are doing more. Or it's like this. You laugh at me because it's like this. Sometimes it's in between this odd conversation that happens. And most of this has nothing to do with spiritual life, right? It's just some sort of in-between chat and divisions that we made between ourselves. Ultimately, these divisions may help us in our ashrams, but not so much in terms of making a border or a a prejudice, right, against another different group of being. And that again was what was the beauty of yesterday's Padayatra. It just brought everybody from different sides together, you know, like in terms of working and doing service. It's not that we don't do that in the temple, but sometimes as a counselor one sees that when devotees are too much in a service where they're sort of by themselves, individually, that it can become a bit more like, what's this one doing and why am I doing this and what's going on here? But sometimes we may not know that brahmachari we didn't see is sitting there translating, you know, very hard on a hardcore part, or the Mataji is somewhere in the garden, you know, doing something, or actually the garland service, which seems very amazing and beautiful, was actually very difficult because it was raining and there were no flowers. It's you know, we forget to see the different elements in their service. What can happen is that we forget to see what we do as devotional service as well, you know, because it's just on our to-do list. Ramananda put me on the plan. Brian put me on the plan. They told me I have to do this. Tick, 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 tick. And it's said that for devotional service to be service, you know this, right? At the beginning, we should offer it to the Lord. In the middle, we should offer it to the Lord. And at the end, we should offer it to the Lord. So yesterday, before the Padayatra, there was an artiyo that was made that we tried to offer this to the Lord. Somewhere in between you should do, and at the end, right? We finish it all off. Also, when we have a festival, there is the Adiva ceremony to begin. And at the end, there is also usually a purificatory ceremony at the end. Here, at least, they do it, that we will get a little bit wet, so that any impurities of the service or whatever was performed is also washed away. I should be careful what I say, and we have Damodar Priya here who may say that it's not quite the right aspect. Was that okay? We have also at the end this element of washing away any impurities, or is there after performing? Possibly. Possible. Thank you. So in one sense, very simple, devotional service, right? But on the other aspect, what are the complications? What is the complexities that sometimes people find? Or problems? What comes up? No problems. No problems after Padayatra. Subal, thank you.
You also mentioned that, for example, the mind.
You're so what?
That the mind tells us, oh, it's too much, I cannot do it anymore.
Yeah, the mind tells us I don't want to do it. The mind tells us it's too much. The mind says, what the heck am I doing here? Like, all sorts of things run through at that moment, right? That's one of the biggest challenges, right? To make the mind a friend and for it not to be the enemy. And sometimes, mostly actually, it seems the mind skips in between. So at the beginning it's like, yeah, Jay, okay, service for the day. And in between, like a 15%, oh sorry, I was just like, oh no, we're not going to manage it. Nor with the children. There were many children who went on Padayatra yesterday. Let's really manage it. Okay, they're singing, they continue to sing the whole time, let's go on, right? So the mind creates many, many problems for us, right? Just generally. And in terms of dealing with the mind, there are lots of whole categories. One of the nicest I can share is definitely this prayerful mood. Oh dear Krishna, I want to engage in your service, but I'm overwhelmed by the demands of my mind. Please help me to stay focused on this, right? So praying. What are other tips for overcoming problems of the mind? There is the quote that we're often given, you know, like whipping. Oh, is it whipping or hitting? Smashing the mind with a shoe. Okay. I'm not a keen one as a counselor for saying this, because we go more on the gentle approach, you know, let's try to deal rather than whack, because sometimes when you're whacking, you don't know what you're whacking at that moment in time, you know, what is it? Sometimes when the mind comes up with something, it could be, actually, it's too much for me in this moment. It's just too much, so what do I need to do? It could be that, you know, on a Padayatra, you sit down for a few minutes, I saw Nandimukhi, she sat down, but somehow Narahari kept going. At one moment it felt she went faint, but somehow so determined. She just took water as she was walking and just kept going. We were sort of considering, wow, okay, determined or practical. Practical is also good. Shamaras, you also had something.
Ich denke mir dann sehr oft, dass es eigentlich eine sehr große Barmherzigkeit, also Segnung ist, einfach überhaupt Dienst machen zu dürfen für Krishna und für die Schiene-Wesen, für die Devotees.
So, Damodar, can you translate?
I very often think that it's actually a great mercy by the Lord that we are able to do devotional service for the Lord and the devotees.
Yes. So you mean to have this mentality? Yeah. So yeah, to do with consciousness, to think, wow, actually it's amazing. We could have fallen into many different things. We could be hardcore Buddhists right now, We could be hardcore whatever, another faith, really have gone into it. But by some fortune, we fell onto really searching for really the ultimate goal of life, not just a certain point. And to the point that if you go into the knowledge that Prabhupada has left for us, one can really understand in a deep way why this is truly the essential truth of life, right? To remember Krishna and not to forget Krishna. So this consciousness often helps. I believe this is one of the reasons of living in the temple. Because as you forget, you just stumble across a devotee or come to the temple and you're already reminded, okay, this is why I'm here. Now when the mind comes in, it is a little bit of a trap, right? As a counselor, which when I first started, so to say, giving some sort of counsel to the ladies a decade ago, I was told, oh, you're not really doing anything, you're just talking to the ladies. I was like, yeah, it's also true, maybe. But actually, you see in the last decade how this has shifted to the need of mentorship and coaches and different taking shelter, not just of your guru, but seeking senior devotees, right? There's really like now and present. I have to say 20 years ago, it was basically like be quiet and serve. Literally like just go there and do it. So in this, we begin to understand not just about this quick bringing devotees in, how to keep them here. The mind will give us challenges in all sorts. A mind comes in, also emotions. I have mostly Prabhus in the room today, but as you know, when emotion comes, at least my husband says, that's it. You're fine most of the time, but when the emotion is there, hello Murari, Hare Krishna. When the emotion is there, then that's it. You're overtaken. It's over. It's over, he tells me. He tells me, ladies, because we're used to our emotions, we can somehow balance, thing. But a man is like, just completely, that's it. Over, can't really manage this, not really doing it, that's it. Throw away the book like this. I'm not sure, I'm used to only little men like Murari. Yesterday, at one moment, I thought he was not going to walk any further on the Padayatra. He had got one thought in his mind. I tried my best. I'd called my senior, my husband, and said, speak to the child. Yes, 20 minutes of reasoning and trying to speak. He still hadn't got out of it. Then we used some sweetness to say, you don't have to walk anymore. We'll get you a ride. No. Would you like a biscuit? No. Then we just sort of carried him and put him in the basket. Jay Sachi, who used to be temple president, told me that sometimes the Sankirtan devotees, you don't have to ask them what they need, you have to know what they need. He said, so when they go in Sankirtan and they're on this mood, Jayo, I'm going, but you see that they're tired, you have to say, you're having a break. At that time he was talking about Advaita Simha. I was like, I'm going. He's like, no, you're having a week's break. You're having a break. He's like, I can tell you need a break. No, I want to go. I'm fine. No, have a break. Meaning, come to the program, read, chant, not like this. And then 2 days after, the devotees, oh yeah, it's good that he saw this. It's good that he saw that I needed a break. So sometimes it's like this. You also have to perceive what's needed. If somebody is too focused, they may forget what their needs are. I also have a couple of girls in the ashram. Sometimes they're just like this, and I'm like, maybe you think of taking a day off or a break before. And then I know I'm fine. I think I'm fine. I'm fine. But you sort of see how the body language, right, is hunching down and this. So as trying to be compassionate devotee, you say, is it okay? Well, I'm a bit sick, but I think I should continue. And oh, maybe it's okay. We'll find someone. Just take it easy. Take that time before you get burnt out, right? And then see how it goes. And sometimes people don't listen to that, right? But other times they do. And I often find that people are very grateful to have those times where somebody in a caring way says, it's okay to take a break to recharge. I think spiritual life works so much on the internal side as well as the external that you need time to process. What happened here? What happened? What changed in me after Padayatra? You see after her. What changed? What happened in my internal consciousness that hopefully has brought me closer to Krishna? And if something has changed that has brought me away, let me address what happened here. For those who say they feel they've turned away, often in different activities, it's often that they say it's to do with this burnt out, this sort of, it was too much. Then the mind got completely overwhelmed and just shut down. I've seen to the point that devotees, they've stopped chanting, they've stopped everything. It's written there when we've really got to our end point. I think it says you should sit down, maybe sit down in a temple and chant Hare Krishna, in Prabhupada. That's what you should do, right? If it's just really, just sit down and chant, so stop. And I haven't done that so many times, but I've done it, I can remember 3 times where I was like, oh, it's just, please no one speak to me at this, it's just too much, I can't, just no, please don't ask me anything more. And I've sat down, mostly in front of Lord Nrsingadev, and just chanted. And it really works. It really works because what you're saying is, I'm feeling a bit hopeless now, it's too much. This is meant to be the end. Devotional service is meant to be the beginning and the end, right? The whole way through, and it's not working in this moment. And in that moment where you sit down and really try to take that help from Krishna, it also, really, Prabhupada knows what he's saying, right? It really seems to help in those moments. Unfortunately, I've seen the other way sometimes where it's really too much and devotees then leave. Krishna's very kind. When you have a desire, and it seems that you've followed and given as much as you can, he often gives a very nice other situation for those people. It feels, at the point that you say, okay, I can't, let me go somewhere else. I felt that after you say, oh, they're nicely situated here, or the next step, it doesn't feel that he just leaves people hanging. So in every step, one sees devotional service seems to sort of pile in this invisible bank account, right? There's this moment where we're thinking, does anyone see what I'm doing? Sometimes it can feel like Krishna sees, right? In this moment, yesterday I was like, we're Padayatra, we're singing, but there's no people here. And immediately I thought of Lord Chaitanya. I was just in the forest. This was their day, right? They went singing Hare Krishna, Maha Mantra, and we'll go into the next place, the next destination. And one moment the cow started running, right? Cow started running as the Harinam party as we walked through. They seemed to somehow hear, and they were running and circling around. The horses seemed to run away, I don't know, this moment, but the cows seemed to really understand what was going on. And still I saw there was a basket of cookies, but by the time we got there, it was almost empty as well. So somewhere along the way, I think it's very important for this distribution where there are fewer people, but who, when they take a cookie, or if they take a book, or if they took prasadam, that's their very first spark into spiritual life. And now in London, looking back, we were a bit spoiled. People come, they take, like this and move. But here you think when people come, right now they have to be a bit brave. You sort of see them looking around. Should I? Shouldn't? Yesterday, should I come? And then they come and they take. Sometimes they may even take a little bit more. But just that aspect that they've had prasadam, or that they greeted a senior like Narahari Mataji, or that they heard the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. The waitress I saw, she was sort of smiling near the end. She didn't look annoyed. She may take her beer orders, but she was somehow smiling. And I thought, there's some sort of softening that happens in these people, right, when they come about. I wonder what it will be like when we go to Jandelsbrunn, because the local area, they're used to us. And sometimes at kindergarten, at school, I've been approached by parents who say, I'm very curious about what you do there. One lady wrote, I really want to know more. She said, not that I necessarily want to take up the practice, but I'm so curious and would love to see what you do. So there is this element that people are somehow, they sort of want to hear. And now this time of the devotees, we're a little bit like, we hold back a little bit, unless you're a Sangha devotee. We thought, okay, just don't give any pressure. We're just saying it's like a new moment. But it's trying to get that right balance up, right, of people, of seeing what is devotional life. Do you have to be completely fanatic to be a devotee? Or can we also approach it in a more peaceful way and still go deep? Is it that if I say, okay, I'm just going to contemplate the whole day, that you may say, actually, that's not devotional service? Or is it? Is there an aspect for both? Mostly it's a balance up, right? Because if you spend the whole day, you say, I can't do any service, I just want to contemplate. Could be after a very heavy festival, okay. But if it's just that actually you're not inspired to do service, sometimes it's good to balance that side up too. Are there some points or questions at this moment? Murari, hast du eine Frage? Did you like it yesterday on Padayatra? Yes? Even dancing. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Subal, what were any points that you took today? You are...
Especially the point where I have this question in mind, what is the ultimate goal of life? What do I aim for? Because this really gets lost sometimes when we see actually different kinds of services. So that's very important. I was thinking a little bit about it then. What is your advice how to strengthen this remembrance again of this goal?
You were thinking of, and
No, I mean, it was a question more to you.
how do we strengthen the remembrance of the Lord?
Of the goal of Krishna.
Yesterday was a reminder of, for me, the basics. When we first come to the temple, we hear the Maha Mantra, and it's like, wow. And then someone gives you some prasadam, especially if it's a gulab jambu, so it's like, wow, right? It's this sort of element. And then you see the deity, and you're also like, wow. Here with the garlands, and it's just like this gold comes out. And over time, we somehow seem to lose this sort of innocent look. We sort of come and, I don't know if I have to take darshan of the deity. So you come in, quickly pay your obeisances, nod, and go again. Or we come in and we pray, like, please help us, certain things. But there's that in-between where in modern world they call it sort of present, being in the present moment. I've heard that that's actually sattva guna, so to be in the present moment. So we're in raja gun, we're always running forward with our minds, where we are tamagun in the past, sattva gun, coming to the present moment and being, wow, so what is it that the Lord is stressing today? What is it that is the Lord's desire for me today? What is it and how is it that I will remember the Lord today? Because we are personal people. It could be that you have a lot of energy that day and you're like, oh wow, there is the Harinam, I will go on Harinam. Or it could be that you're more in a contemplative mood and you ask yourself, how could I serve the Lord? You think, actually, I would really like to sit and read. 2 days ago, we heard that brahmachari should read at least 2 hours every day, right? So it's like I haven't really been able, so you may think, today actually I would like to read. Well, what is it? Today actually, I know I have a lot going on, but I haven't finished my rounds, so I will put my phone away. I will put everything away just for this hour. And if somebody asks me, like this, I literally have put my phone away in the cupboard, as funny as it sounds, just because one is caught in these two worlds. 90% of my messages are service related. But does that also mean that by giving one service priority, I should forego the quality of another service, the other service being chanting? Meaning, so I'm chanting, and then if I put also notifications off, but you think, oh God, what if somebody needs something now? So you're either halfway or at the end of a round, and you check the phone. And I tell you, 50% of the time there is a message. And there is something that somebody believes is demanding of me. But there is a choice, and it does help, when they give the japa workshop. Actually, it's said, especially when we're chanting, we should try to be attentive, right? To be inattentive means we lose our focus and we focus on something else. Yeah, it's like, most of the time it's almost innocent, right? You sort of just get lost in something else, whatever. Or I must do this, or I have to. But actually, the process of chanting japa is to focus on every mantra. Yeah? So we focus on every mantra. For Murari, it's a different process. His process is focusing on play, on when he can get his next play. And then we leave him the possibility that some devotional aspect may come. Like you may see he likes to serve prasadam. Charu occasionally likes to serve sankirtan, likes to go on sankirtan. So there's a different process, different time. But for us, this element of, okay, what am I doing? It may be that you're also focusing in on, looking over the ashram. But in that moment, just to be present in that service is also very helpful for the mind. Because you're giving everything for that. And at that moment, I will take prasadam. At that moment, I will take rest. But in this moment, let me remember Krishna by completing my service to his satisfaction. And in that remembrance, when you're focusing just, so you're reading, then you come into that point where you're can pray beforehand. Okay, Krishna, please help me to understand what I'm reading. Yeah, so that's it. Not, okay, quickly my, quota, 5 minutes for the day. When we're there, in any moment, if we remember, I think Shamaras, she's gone now, but this moment we remember, wow, okay, it's very lucky that I have this opportunity for devotional service. But what is my service today? Well, I actually have a free day. Well, that doesn't mean free, right? It means I will now chant for Krishna. This is my service for Krishna. Today I have the opportunity really to take that time to focus in on the chanting. I'm sorry to go on about chanting, but we're often quoted, I think it's Akila Prabhu, excuse me if I'm wrong, but that the chanting, the quality of our chanting will affect the rest of the day, So basically, when we have got to the point where our chanting is focused, as it can be, it affects the day. Just like I have days where there's so much service that I'm chanting later on in the day, and it's okay, what's going on? But it's still that the vow is there, so one fulfills. But on those days where one can focus, it could be that you did wake up early and you were chanting, but you were so sleepy that it just sort of came out, or then you had to take rest. So then you think, okay, let me take that rest, and now let me try to focus. Thank you. I know you give this example also for all of us. But certainly this came up for me because I find that those who are practicing for some time, we do slope into what can be called the mundane aspects of life, and we can put spiritual life into that, and we can forget that actually spiritual life is that joy-giving aspect. And if it's not giving joy, we just have to question. Like I had a project which was really difficult, but I had obliged myself to it. So I was like, but I sort of wanted out, but I was like, okay, but I'm obliged. So then I prayed a lot, and the mind was giving me a lot of trouble because it was just too much, I could feel it was too much. But I was like, okay, but it's over in 5 days. Krishna, please still accept this service. So I gave what I could. And there was something that did soften, like even despite my inner obstacles, I continued. But after that, I knew I need a break. And someone came and gave me another project. And I was like, I'm very sorry. Please don't ask me today. Next week may be a different topic, but I just need to focus back in on my sadhana. And there's nothing wrong with this balance up, right? You're not saying no, you're just saying no, not right now. You have to understand the aspect of your internal working, right? Like our Vedasara Prabhu comes in now, and I get that probably he ran for something to do with the Padayatra today. Oh, is it true? So he was running and he came in. So it's not that I can say, hey, come on, Prabhu, why you didn't come for class, right? It's more this case of understanding he is on his mission right now. He focuses in on that. And therefore that's for that time. But if he is always running from this, I'm not just using an example, this, it could be that he loses his focus on just the sadhana aspect of what we do, this aspect of remembering Krishna. Often, Satchidananda Swami says, don't get lost in just your projects of what you're doing. And then we're speaking like, but the projects are serving Krishna, right? But sometimes we can be so focused in on my project or what I'm doing or what I will do that we miss the essence of just remembering Krishna, serving the Vaishnavas and asking him to accept that service. Yeah, because we need to, like I say, tick list. So this, I find at least... I know it sounds simple, but I found that it helped me. I certainly do believe I have a complicated mind. So this simplicity is there for a reason, right? To get up, to go to a Harinam, to be focused. And as your mind kicks in, to be like, no, listen to the mantra. No, like it's enough. Yeah, listen, no, I'm joking, make fun. Yeah. You need to stretch because you have to focus in on this, what's going on. Rikesh is there in Berlin trying to set up or help with Berlin setup. Now for years somehow projects don't seem to last in Berlin. Yeah, and Prabhupada wanted in these capital cities for things to happen. And we are the biggest temple in the middle of nowhere in Bavaria, right? Is, the biggest temple. So Berlin should come up, but somehow these projects there, they haven't come, so it's amazing that you begin. T-shirt says Kirtan Berlin. Now, there could be many obstacles and maybe a reason why in Berlin things don't set up. It has a lot of culture, like historical issues, be it from the Berlin Wall or whatever. So meaning maybe there's a conflict line or something that goes or runs there. But somehow to keep going on a project helps. You start small and you begin, but just to focus. Okay, today I will see how we can get these Berliners in for Kirtan, for the program. In London, we had a startup in Mantra Lounge in a place called Covent Garden, which is a very sort of natural healing type of place, but there was no spiritual program. And at the beginning or the early shoots, there was just, okay, we have a program. We were told we have to charge entry, and inside this room, like double the space, there are 2 people. Oh, God. Okay, Krishna, what do we do? I was okay. Let's pray. And we just ask people. So I remember going out with one of the devotees and saying, hey, you're sitting here. Wouldn't you like just to try something different this evening? It's just €5 or £5 Come in. And somehow it worked. People came. 10, 15, more people came in. And then we had enough for a program because it was a mantra lounge. So it was a type of mantra that happens when people resonate and sing back, right? But with two, it wasn't. So I remember praying very intensely in that moment because we'd done all the setup, but you're like in an empty room was the point. So you prayed, and in that moment, that intensity of like, hey, you sure you don't want to come in? And they're like, no, please, just try. You get some food, it's €5, but it's also a wonderful evening. What do you think? And before you know it, somehow Krishna has inspired them. They seem to be nodding and following you in. I'm like, wow. They go into a dark room. They're not sure where they're entering because it's a place. I think they've moved now, but it was down the stairs, and it was a big room where we brought a deity and different music people. So somewhere along the way, there's moments where you have to push yourself. Okay, I have to do it. But I think a lot of our lives is a lot of inner reflection, and to really be like, what's going on inside of me? Ja. Bete. Murari is asking what he can do at home. Wir gehen bald zu Hause. Warte. Subal hat gefragt, was kann machen, dass will Krishna immer erinnern? Hast du einen Tipp? He's thinking. Ja?
Dass zum Beispiel, wenn er in den Tempel reingeht und dann Navasamadhi steht, weil Navasamadhi ist auch Krishna.
So musst in den Tempel gehen und Krishna.
Yeah.
So he gave this example that you can come to the temple and then see Nrsimhadev and remember that Nrsimhadev is also Krishna, you know. So it's simple. So sometimes it is simple. They come up, you know. And I was thinking before, I'm too complicated for this simple way of thinking. But it does work. Sometimes when you're in a group of devotees, okay, good. When you're in a group of the association of devotees, it becomes better. I think it was Gauranga Das or Gauranga Prabhu who gave this. When you just recently I was flashing through something. If you associate with alcoholics, you become an alcoholic. If you associate with materialists, you become a materialist. If you associate with devotees who bring others down, you will be brought down. So when you associate with people, be very careful. When you are there to give counsel, it's a very fine line between helping to raise that person and getting too involved that you're also brought down. I mean, those who are on a higher spiritual level, maybe it's easier, but it's careful because these subtle things can infiltrate us. I saw it often in the ladies' ashram. We have a very wonderful ashram right now. But when there were a couple who were always on the and this problem, you felt in the whole mood sort of just lowered. Whereas when you have a few that say, okay, come on, I know it's not so great, but let's chant Hare Krishna. Let's do this. Let's try going here and doing it. Just raises it up again. So there's a balance up. I say that as a counselor, yes, we need to speak about the problems, but to a level where you, when no one is pushed down, that you're expressing, but not in your expression pushing others down, right? And everything that we do, we try to help lift others up, even if something has been done against us, right? So anything like this. So this is where we have to be careful. And certainly because you look over the ashram, I also say from personal experience, also managing is definitely a position where one can end up in a place where you're like, well, what's with my spiritual life? What's going on here? I'm not feeling... And then you can reflect on the day and think, well, there was this problem, and then this happened, and there was also this. So your consciousness has been full with maybe 3 or 4 hours of such talks. So you pick it up again. You have to pick it up again. Doesn't mean that they may have been useful for that other person, but it has to... Individual work has to usually be there to pick it up. One TP asks, what do you do? He says, well, I go to the temple room and then sing kirtan for half an hour, even if he's alone, right? Just to raise one out of this. Could be you're on the streets of Berlin and it's been really tough and you're like, oh my goodness, no one even took a flyer, let alone anything else. So you have to go in, you know. You may need to go in and have a big plate of halva or something that just pumps it back up. But it is like this idea. Some people tell me often, I can't take the prasadam, it's not healthy. And I'm like, yes. But I say, well, I've been touch would take in the prasadam here, and I try to meditate. This is Nishingadev Maha Prasadam. I'm lucky, I haven't been on the altar for quite some time, I'm lucky enough to have offered the prasadam to the Lord here, that the cooks have made and the gardeners. And it's a really elaborate process that makes this Maha Prasadam. In most temples, you get like a little pot, and that's all that's given to the deity. But here, we have one kitchen, and that prasadam that's offered, it becomes maha because it's the whole part of the offering is given. And we have the opportunity to then take this. And this is a higher potency, I'd say, that most people. Sometimes you see it. I've had a god sister who came and she was like, can I get some of the maha prasadam? And I'm like, yes. She's like, is this really Nishingadev Maha Prasadam? I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh my God, I've been thinking about when can I have the opportunity to have Nishingadev Maha Prasadam. This is like, wow. And I was like, wow, amazing. She's, what we've been eating for the last, every day. Like, okay, is this healthy or not? I'll forget about that for a moment. Of course, if you have a dietary aspect, just don't put everything on your plate, I rarely put sweets on my plate. I mean, I don't have a taste for them too, but you put things that you may need, and then you concentrate. This is Nishingadev Mahaprasadam. Let me take this into my system. I am honoring the prasadam. This is prasadam. This is prasadam. This prasadam is there to purify those outside that we meet, but also us, right? Every day. If you then decide, I would hate to do this experiment now after all these years, but if you then say, okay, this week I won't eat any prasadam. I mean, I will just eat whatever, whatever. I mean, it seems horrible, no? The idea of just to take whatever food is anywhere and just to put it, I mean, it's almost unthinkable at this moment. But just, one could, please don't do this, but one could experiment on this. Well, now we're used to this is prasadam, but do we remember this is actually purifying me each and every day? Like this, small things, I think, which are essentials of our spiritual life, and that we should never think are too small for us to take seriously. They seem to give the joy, I find. The other things are part of, as you get older in a movement, you have to take some responsibility. Like, I don't like administration. I don't like administration, this whole, but you have to do it. At least 20, 30 messages every day, just on. But you have to do, because those who are coming here and want to come here and be a part need that. So then one tries to put one's heart in it. Instead of saying, yeah, you can come on this day, you'll be like, oh, we are very pleased that you come, because we are actually. And we hope that you will have a nice spiritual experience here, right? Just to give that extra, right? Then we can remember Krishna. And some will surprise you and say, yes, I know I contacted you while volunteering work away, but I've been a devotee and I was in this temple in Indonesia and I've never been able to stop thinking about it. That's why I'm coming. You're like, Jay. So, devotional service, ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada, Srimad-Bhagavatam, ki Jai. Thank you very much. Please take prasadam. There is a group. We fear it will be a little smaller today. Will it be smaller? No. The group. The group who go on Padayatra Jai.
I don't know, let's see.
Let's see what happens.
Depends on the feed situation.
Feed situation. Okay. Thank you. Oh.